I speak to you as the part of you that knows the pull towards rest. I remember the first time I experienced rest in my body, true rest. It was fleeting. Not fleeting because I was too busy for it, fleeting because I was too scared to stay there. I couldn't afford it. I was in my late 20s. My back was injured in a chronic way. The yoga teacher said we needed to convince those muscles to relax so that they could reorganize themselves around healing. They were inclined toward alignment, she said, and my job was to get out of the way. When I finally understood what she meant, my back began a slow mobilization into stasis. The dull ache just outside of my control drove me crazy. I couldn't stay there. The resting state felt like free fall. I couldn't afford free fall because I had invested everything in controlling the chaos of the rest of my life. It had been 4 years since the kidnapping and execution of my boyfriend, Terrence Freitas, in Colombia. Terrence and 2 native North American colleagues were taken from the land indigenous to the Colombian UA people, land then coveted by Los Angeles-based Occidental Petroleum. They had gone to this land at the invitation of this community to support their efforts to keep the oil in the ground and to protect their way of life. To the UA people, oil is the blood of the earth. It is the blood of the mother. When we take the oil out of the earth, equilibrium is lost. To the UA people, their reason for being on the planet is to maintain the equilibrium. Terrence and his colleagues had just finished a month of visits with this community. They were kidnapped from the back of a pickup truck on their way to the airport, on their way home. 8 days later, a farmer found their bound and bullet-ridden bodies in his cow field just across the Venezuelan border. Terrence was shot 10 times, his colleagues many times also. For years after the murders, I did what survivors do. I hustled. I made sure that I was worthy of being still here. I went to law school, started working on human rights cases, accepted a leadership role in a global organization doing this kind of work. At that time, when I looked into the past, it brought sheer terror. Looking into the future brought panic. I came to understand the refuge of the present moment, that the most reliable spot to hang out is right here, right now, that spot where it becomes possible to tap the love and understanding that are the foundations of compassion. These are the core teachings of many yogic and meditative traditions, and I thought I got it. I said to my teacher, Ram Dass, look at all this work I'm doing in the world, and all this work I'm doing on the inside. I can tell that the inside work could take lifetimes to realize. Why not put down all of the work in the world, go to the mountaintop and just do the inside work? And he said no. This was shortly after a stroke, so he wasn't saying much. He said, it's not or, it's. And at that time, what I thought he meant was, do both. Do both at the same time. Yes, go to the mountaintop and keep doing the work in the world. You don't have a free pass. This is what I thought he meant, and I was an earnest student. I left our Brooklyn apartment for a cabin in the Santa Cruz woods. On the one hand, I went to the woods thinking that there, finally, I would stop. On the other hand, I was still in my hustle. In my effort to keep doing both, I found a secret shortcut to rest. I would leave my makeshift office, walk deep into the redwood forest, and lay on the ground. I would unzip my spine with my mind's eye, let my life force energy drain completely out, back into the earth. In that emptiness, I felt a stillness, felt my body sinking down, even as my mind's eye traveled up, tracing the arc from California to that cow field where Terrence's blood had soaked the earth. In that stillness, I felt a sense of coming home, a sense of belonging. I had created my sense of coming home by emptying and draining myself out. I did this bloodletting in private. In public, I was ringing the mindfulness bell, teaching others the tool of coming back to the breath, of the joy available in this very moment through presence and letting go. I was ringing this bell in our organizations, our coalitions, policy briefings, trainings. When I became a mother, I organized Mindful Mama circles wherever we moved. But in the quiet of the night, for years, the solace I found was in letting all of that inner knowing drain back out into the earth so that I would have a place to rest. It was a fundamentally disembodied time. I have to tell you a bit about the work I do in the world now so that the rest of my reflections have context. At Earthrights International, where I am now the co-chair of the board, we bring together the power of the people and the power of the law to protect human rights and the environment. That team has seen a string of landmark victories on behalf of communities all around the world in settlement after settlement by energy corporations for community claims of human rights abuse. At the University of California, where I work now, we are taking action to make climate change and sustainability part of the education of all students at all 10 of our campuses throughout the state. At the Irvine campus, where I am based, we are also making space for communities on the front lines of the changing climate to harness the university to co-create knowledge to serve society. These actions have merit. Collectively, globally, they have an impact on the lives of hundreds of thousands of people. When done right, they can ripple out and touch the lives of many more. I am moved to play a role in work that touches lives, even saves lives. But here's my question. How do we do this work really at the scale and clip necessary to turn the tide? What does it take to accelerate the deep and lasting fundamental changes we need in order to create the new systems and cultures we need of regeneration and resilience? What does it take to not only touch the lives, but also unleash the capacity of young people today as they lead these shifts? These questions undergird our work. But they are not primarily questions about what we need to do or what resources we need to have. To me, at the core, the question is, who do we need to be? To me, at the core, the answer has everything to do with our ability to rest. Back when Terrence was killed, my bloodletting was the best I could do to rest. It was my earnest effort to make sure the trauma didn't lodge in the body, and my way of stopping when I was still trying to do it all. But I can see now that what is required of us now is different. The work of being is the work of integration, and integration takes staying in the body, coming back to the body, and being here with what is. For years, I was confused about this point. I would often bring to mind the haunting images from the stage when Bill T. Jones invited us into the world of surviving long-term terminal illness through his piece, Still Here. I had come to identify with the solitude of being one who is left. I was walking around the world with this attitude that if I was going to stick around, if I couldn't go to whatever better place Terrence had gone, I might as well get some good work done. From my vantage now, I can see that this starting point is only that. It's not the whole point. From the starting point, we move around the still point. It is iterative and cyclical. Bill T. Jones showed us survival in two parts, inseparable from one another. Being still, despite the not knowingness of what's coming next, and being here in the body, those who have survived, of coming back into the body, keeping all of the parts, moving around the still point as an act of integration. The blood of our friends pouring into the earth, staying in the body anyway. The blood of so many others around whose memories we have stood up to say, no more disposable people, no more disposable planet. This blood is let, and we are staying in our bodies anyway. Oil, the blood of the earth, is staying in the ground. Presence as an act of resistance, presence in and of itself as an act of beauty, our hearts opening even as they break. When I say our hearts are opening even as they break, I'm not talking here about the heartbreak of a love long lost. I'm talking about the heartbreak we endure simply by being awake and alive in this moment of unprecedented global change and seemingly intractable inequity. The heartbreak of explaining to our children what healthy coral reef used to look like, or how the moist morning air used to feel when spring broke. The heartbreak of teaching our children how to stay safe around the police, or that sometimes a money-making purpose may not be compatible with protecting life. The heartbreak of talking about Flint or Black Mesa, and what our families back in the Philippines and in India do every morning to make their water clean enough to drink. The heartbreaking open, watching our children pour kitchen sink wastewater into the garden. An offering disguised as economy, a mother's small prayer that they will learn reverence. To be awake in this moment means holding both the heartbreak and the beauty. Cultivating the capacity to hold it all means that we need to both make supple and strengthen our container. As individuals, our container is our own body. As groups of people, our container is our community. To make supple and to strengthen the container of our own body and of our communities requires the same action of us. It is the action of staying and being here. It is the action of rest. The definition of rest, in fact, is to cease work or movement in order to relax and recover strength. I'm not talking here about the kind of rest we get when we check out, when we say hop online when the day's been too much. That kind of rest has its place. It is another form of emptying out. I am talking here about a different kind of rest, the rest we get through the act of refusing to check out, of allowing the pull towards staying to be stronger than the relief we gain by emptying ourselves out and giving ourselves away. The act of coaxing ourselves back into connection and communication. These are the acts of staying. Staying enables the contradictory pulls to resolve themselves, allows us to see the myth of scarcity, quiets the voice that says there's not enough time, not enough money, not enough of us, quiets the voice that says, I can, therefore I must. Indeed, staying allows us to say hello to guilt, to smooth the ancient lines on her face with the salve of just being enough. These are the acts of staying and integration, the way we hold both the heartbreak and the beauty. Staying enables our experiences of anger, sorrow, fear, and emptiness, gives them the breathing room and witness they need to enable deep and lasting fundamental change. Staying enables, as Joanna Macy teaches us, enables us to see and remember that anger's energy is also that of passion, that fear's energy is also that of courage, that sorrow's energy is also that of love, and that the energy of emptiness is also that of equanimity. That these energies, the foundations of right action out in the world, are available to us and our communities when we remember to look. We are living in a time in which everything tells us we are out of time, so we do a lot of fast work. It is plain to see that our success in the fast work hinges upon the depth of our integration of the slow work I'm describing here. I think this is what Ram Dass actually meant. His gesture of didn't mean keep doing it all. It meant integration, and integration takes staying. And if we're going to stay on this crazy planet at this crazy time, we've got to do a little work on the container. And that work is the work of becoming supple and recovering strength. And to do that, we've got to figure out what unlocks rest, what unlocks our ability to stay in it and rest. So we may be rolling out program after program at the University of California to make climate and sustainability part of the education of all students. But we are also doing that as we offer these students a framework for leadership that is rooted in their development of key skills and personal mastery. Skills that enable them a deeper experience of the interdependence of all life, and to learn how to listen and act from that place of remembering. We are teaching students how to ask strategic questions of themselves and others, questions that enable community visioning and action planning for resilience and regeneration that is rooted in this remembering of our true selves. All of these efforts of these students to be effective in these ways takes doing the slow work. Our challenge now is to move from knowing this to being this, and from there back out into action. These lessons are at the core of some of the most exciting social movements of our times. The National Domestic Workers Alliance is comprised of the women who have left their families and homes, walked across borders to come here to clean our homes and care for our children and our elders. These women have built alliance with one another and often with employers to fight for and win legislative victories in immigration reform and domestic worker rights. These women leaders have done the slow work of weaving people together across difference under the banner of "We belong together." How does a banner like that get written? It gets written in part because these worker leaders have committed themselves to moving historical trauma through the body, to have the prayer of a chance of coming back home into the body, even when home is worlds away. That work enables them to show up with a different stance, a bridging stance that is both supple and very strong. The movement for Black lives similarly inspires because it speaks to us from a deeper knowing about the sanctity of the body, of Black bodies, that none of us is free until Black bodies have the space in our communities to become both supple and to recover strength without the fear of being slain. To lead from that deeper knowing takes the slow work. The movement for Black lives is asking us, what will it take to create space for Black bodies to rest, not only as an act of resistance, but also as a way of being alive in the world. At the university, our students are beginning to learn these tools by taking the lead from youth counterparts in Central America, where this approach to leadership has caught like the best kind of wildfire through an organization called Ceres. There, young people are stepping into the leadership vacuum left by decades of civil war and migration. They are saying, yes, we need to accelerate the shifts, and to do that, we must take care to do the slow work. We are seeing the same thing across the world in Southeast Asia through our work with Earth rights. While our lawyers and community organizers are out there gaining settlement after settlement from human rights abusing corporations, we are also running schools for Earth rights defenders. In one school, we bring together students from the headwaters to the delta of the Mekong River, students from 5 countries. They are learning the rules of human and environmental rights. They are learning how to stay safe in places where big companies have big guns. But they are also learning and sharing skills with one another about how to talk with each other across the differences of language, social class, and history. Where their elders may have been divided for generations, these young people, united in the fight of their lives for the river they love, have figured out ways to hold both the heartbreak and the beauty. This is the slow work of repair and integration. This is the work of stepping forward into community and towards each other. It is the work of reorganizing ourselves around healing. It is the work of dwelling in the body and the body politic, even when it aches. It is the work of coming home. I speak to you as the part of you that knows the pull towards rest. May we begin.